are live.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is L. Diane Wolf, Senior Editor at Dancing Lemur Press. I am going to be reading from two different books today by two authors that we have that have books, another book coming out later, either this year or the beginning of next year. First one I'm going to read from is Damian Larkin's Big Red. He's actually moderating a panel later this afternoon. And so I'm going to read a little bit of that. I'll give you the synopsis real quick. We have always been here. Traumatized by the effects of compression travel, soldier Darren Laughlin holds the key to the fate of Earth's Martian colonies. With his battalion decimated, his fractured memory holds the only clues to the colony-wide communications blackout. With time running out, Darren pieces together his year-long tour of duty with the Mars Occupational Force. Stationed on the Nazi-founded New Berlin colony, ruled by the brutal Mars Corps, he recounts his part of the vicious genocidal war against the hostile alien natives and all who question Terran's supremacy. But as his memories return, Darren suspects he is at the center of a plot spanning 40 years, and his alien enemies may be more human than he is. Enough, the Brigadier General roared into the microphone. The room fell silent. I had hoped that so-called professionals would maintain a certain level of dignity and decorum and accept the word of a senior officer, but it seems we will have to escalate matters. The general mumbled, bring him in, as he stepped away from the microphone and gestured at the surgeon in blue scrubs seated behind him. The surgeon stood and hastily exited through the doors, with remaining silent and watched the doors with intent, wondering what else could show to convince us that we were no longer on Earth. After a minute or two, we got our answer, and no one was smiling anymore. Allow me to present a captured insectoid hostile, one of the non-human species currently residing on Mars. Despite a lifetime of memories, there's very few that resonate with you enough that you can remember every single detail. Not just the image, but the sight, the smell, the feeling, every aspect of that morning. Up until that point, holding Cat for the first time, or the time I got headbutted by the lead singer of a trash metal band for drunkenly climbing onto the stage to steal his microphone, ranked up there. But seeing this thing for the first time seared itself into my brain forever. It was more wide than tall, but still looked the height of an average person. Flanked by 6 guards, this spider demon from hell barely squeezed through the corridor and now stood passive on the stage, with chains held by the guards pulling at it from all directions to keep it steady. Its torso and head appeared human. I could easily make out an ugly nose, mouth, and deep black eyes, but that's where the similarities ended. 8 crooked, scalpel-tipped legs clipped the stage floor with even the slightest of movements, adding to its insidious horror. After a few seconds, they escorted it in. The room fell silent. It was as if we all held our breaths collectively, unsure if exhaling might set it off on a murderous rampage. In slow, controlled movements, it looked around the auditorium, studying us as we gaped at it. Those strange black eyes probed us and made us unsure of who it was looking at specifically. It opened its mouth and let out a series of high-pitched squeaks and shrieks that echoed and bounced around the room. A crash and a bang sounded from the front row, and from somewhere behind me as 2 soldiers fainted in shock. Guards rushed forward to administer first aid, while the rest of us stared in awe at the devilish specimen in front of us. Thank you, the general said, nodding at the guards. Get that thing out of here. The massive creature shrieked again, and I got the impression it was baffled by why we were all so fascinatedly horrified by it. But the guards tugged on the chains and dragged it back the way it had come. We started breathing again as soon as the door slammed shut. We returned our attention to the Brigadier General, who remained posed at the podium with a smug smile plastered across his face as he patted Dr. Milton on the back. Dr. Milton looked overtly pleased with himself too, as he scribbled furiously in a notebook in his hand. He smiled in glee at our stunned reaction. Although we were still shocked by what we had witnessed, every hand in the room went up again. This time, however, no one joked. Sir, what is our mission on Mars? To provide security and defense to the 5 human colonies on Mars and to render any services as needed to protect and defend the property and person of Mars Corp and the civil population. Sir, how did we get to Phobius? I'm going to pause it there so I can get to the other one. Now, this one is a little excerpt from Casa Storm, which is the third book in Alex J. Kavanaugh's Casa series. We have already signed the contract with him and started working on Casa Dark, which will be the fourth book, and that will be coming out sometime next year. So I will read you a little bit from that one. A storm gathers across the galaxy. Commanding the Cassan base on Chagrin, Byron thought he'd put the days of battle behind him. As a galaxy-wide war encroaches upon the desert planet, Byron's ideal life is threatened, and he's caught between the Chagrins and Cassans. After enemy ships attack the desert planet, Byron discovers another battle within his own family. The declaration of war between all 10 races triggers nightmares in his son, Bassan, threatening to destroy the boy's mind. Meanwhile, the ancient alien ship is transmitting a code that might signal the end to life in the galaxy. And the mysterious probe that almost destroyed Chagrin 20 years ago is returning. As his world begins to crumble, Byron suspects a connection. The storm is about to break, and Byron is caught in the middle. And the excerpt I'm going to read is from Bassan's point of view, his son. He now faced the 3 open doorways. Bassan peered in the closest room. It contained a computer console similar to those lining the far wall. Something was unusual, though. The frame appeared larger and displayed a static screen. Curious as to why this console boasted no activity, Bassan stepped through the open doorway. "What are you doing?" Drent thought, seizing his elbow. "I just want a closer look," thought Bassan, shaking off his friend's strong grip. The panel's faint lights beckoned him closer. "When I said use every advantage we can get, I didn't mean like this. I'm just looking. My father only allowed me in this room with supervision." Bassan hesitated. "You've been here before?" Drent dropped his hands to his side. "Well, of course I have. My father brought me here shortly after they discovered the control room." Frustration rose in Bassan's chest. He never accompanied his father on assignments. Sheltered by his parents, Bassan never got to experience anything. Feeling defiant, he decided that would change right now. Hovering near the console, he examined the large screen. Set in a grid pattern, its green lines glowed much softer than the other screens. A set of 11 symbols pulsated at the top, the orange glow a sharp contrast to the green. Bassan stood on his toes to get a closer look. "What does it say?" he thought, resting his fingers on the lowest edge of the console. The casing felt cool to the touch. "My father said they haven't deciphered it yet," Drent thought, moving to his side. Disappointed by the answer, Bassan's gaze dropped to the metallic ball protruding from the console's casing. Residing just inches from his fingers, the shine of the orb enticed him closer. Sliding his hand along the console's edge, Bassan poised his index finger to touch the surface. A hand on his shoulder startled him, and Bassan froze. "Come on, my father will be angry if he catches us in here," thought Drent. With reluctance, Bassan stepped away from the console, but didn't relinquish his hold. Drent's hand lifted from his shoulder, and Bassan caught his breath. His fingers were beside the ball. He was so close. This might be his only opportunity to experience something new. Ignoring the voice of reason that screamed in his head, Bassan grabbed the metallic orb. A jolt of energy shot through his fingertips. It traveled up his arm to his brain. Images flashed through his mind at a rapid pace, blinding in their intensity. The console in front of him was lost as the vivid array raced through his head. Frightened and confused, Bassan opened his mouth to cry out for help. Before he could utter a sound, the kaleidoscope ended. He gasped at the sudden void. "What did you do?" Drent demanded, his thought pounding at Bassan's temples. Releasing the ball, Bassan dropped his hand. He stared at the console in confusion. Its screen had not altered, and the green grid gave no indication of what had just occurred. "What are you boys doing in here?" Spinning on his heels, Bassan discovered Officer Mavine in the doorway. He shielded his mind, fearful Drent's father would hear his thoughts. "Sorry, father," said Drent. "We were just looking at the screen." The science officer stared hard at the boys, his lips pressed together. "This console has not been accessed yet and is off limits. Come on, I have one more computer to show you before your instructor returns." The boys followed Officer Mavine from the room. Bassan glanced back at the console, relieved the screen showed no sign of tampering. He couldn't recall any of the image that had raced through his mind. Had he dreamed the whole experience? Preoccupied with his thoughts, Basson only half listened as Officer Mavine explained the growth programming of the pod's occupants. Basson's fingers still tingled. He kept his hand behind his back and hoped no one noticed the compulsive wiggling. I shouldn't have touched that ball. Relief flooded his mind when Officer Mavine escorted the boys from the room. As they descended through the tunnel to the main level, he recalled his father's warning. The one time he didn't tell me not to touch something, I touched something, he thought, his shoulders drooping further with every step. Damn, I am in so much trouble. Anyways, and again, that was from Casa Storm, which there are 3 in the series. They follow Byron, and then, of course, eventually to his son, Basson. And Casa Dark comes out next year. We haven't got an exact date. And then the other one, of course, was Irish author Damien Larkin with Big Red. And again, Blood Red Sands comes out this July 6th. So if you're interested, you can definitely pick up the books. And I appreciate that. Anything from you, Virginia?
Thank you so much for that reading, Diane. I apologize. There was a slight mix-up with tech at the start, so you may not have had quite as many live viewers as you would have otherwise. However, we fixed it, and everyone has now been directed here, so everyone will find your reading in the right place from now on. And I apologize for the initial mix-up. Entirely my fault. But thanks everyone for coming to watch. You did still have about 6 people watching live, which is about normal for our readings. So,
good.
And please go check out those books. The Dancing Lemur Press link is there in the chat. And we'll see y'all at the next event. Are any of your authors at any of our other events later, or are their events already done?
Just Damien's doing the moderating a panel again
in about an
hour, little over an hour, where I'm actually on a panel about indie flavors.
Oh, that's
in 15 minutes.
Right.
And then another one of our authors, Tyreen Martinson, is doing a panel Sunday morning on disabilities in science fiction.
Brilliant.
We do have a couple of our authors here.
There you go. Sorry, that was I was like, I wanted to tout those, but I didn't have the schedule up. So excellent. Thank you for that. So everyone, please be sure to check those out. And now Diane has to run because, as mentioned, she's on a panel coming right up. So thank you, everyone. That'll be the end of this stream. The next event that we are streaming is the Indie Flavors one, so that the one that Diane is on. So if you'd like to see more of Diane, you can see her right away starting at 11 a.m. Central. Please go check that out, and we'll see y'all there.
All right. Thank you, Virginia.
You're welcome. And the stream's done.